A special office who helped us with
Acknowledgement of thanks.
providing flyers and the invitations, excuse me. And also BYUSA and the United Club Council for the structures and for their support as well. I would like to personally thank the Big Musangai and who really spearheaded this project and got it started, and not only this performance but the club itself, and then also thank the performers who will be performing tonight and all others that made it possible. By way of introduction, I'd just like to give you a brief intro into the club and what the BYU Kinshasa Cultural Center is about. Our focus is really on urban culture, I guess including Kinshasa, Zaire, other African cities, but really any city in the world, and the culture surrounding that city. And some things that you'll see tonight focus on African myths and legends, but there's a lot of other Western philosophy and urban culture mixed in. The performances tonight we titled it the African Fest, and it's you noticed on the announcement that it deals with witchcraft and folklore and myths and legends, but we don't want you to get the impression that this is a celebration of witchcraft or a celebration of evil, but rather an acknowledgement that evil and good do exist in the world today, and evil takes various forms, and that maybe as part of an awareness or some other aspect of evil that you get an introduction. And as I mentioned, the stories and the scenes acted out tonight are based on both African myth and legend, but also Western philosophy and mixed in with a lot of other stuff. So we hope you enjoy the performance. And one announcement is that we will be having pardon me if I pronounce this wrong, a philatelic exhibition, and I had no idea what that was. It's stamp collecting. We'll have an exhibition in December, and we'd like you to come and invite your participation there as well. Thank you very much.
Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man of his labor which he takes under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. But earth abides forever. the sun also rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where he arose. The wind goes toward the north and turns about toward the south. It whirls about continually, and the wind returns again according to his circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The thing that has been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. There is no new thing under the sun.
There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. A man to whom God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanted nothing good for his soul of all that he desired. Yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. If a man beget 100 children and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, but his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he.
A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of man, and the living shall lay it to his heart. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better to be proud and it is better to feel the anguish of a proud spirit. Or is it? It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than that a man should hear the laughter of fools. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so also is vanity. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools.
Who is thus the wise man, who knows the interpretation of a thing?
A man's wisdom make his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. I counsel this to keep the king's commandment, and that in regard of the oath of God. Be not too hasty, go out of his sight. Stand not in an evil thing. Where the word of king is, there is a power. And who may say unto him, what dost thou? Whoso keep the commandments shall feel no evil. A wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment. Because every purpose there, time and judgment. Therefore the misery of man's great upon him. For he knoweth not that which shall be. And who can tell him when it shall be? There is no man has the power over the spirit to retain the spirit. Neither hath power in the day of death. There is no discharge in that world. Neither shall wickedness deliver those that's given to it.
Wake up! Time to get busy. Get your tools, let's get to work.
Have you got the news?
Helicopter-born American soldiers shot and killed 2 Somali gunmen Monday after a Pakistani peacekeeper was wounded in a militia attack on UN forces.
A minister was shot to death while his congregation, including a 13-year-old daughter, looked on in horror.
A man watching the sunset at the park with his girlfriend and her 2 young children was shot to death in an attempted carjacking. Get busy!
Has begun. Struggle to death.
You did. An army officer went on a shooting rampage in a naval base, wounding and killing 4 officers before he was shot dead.
Army troops killed 12 rebels Friday in 2 incidents in northern Colombia and south of Bogota, and 3 soldiers died when they stepped on a landmine.
Southwest Africa, a nation has slipped back into war. War has brought starvation, and as many as 1,000 people are dying. Day of malnutrition in Angola.
A gunman walks onto a school football field in Sheridan, Wyoming, and begins firing at a group of pupils in a gym class, killing and wounding 4 children before he was shot dead.
Fishermen hunted on Friday for a great white shark, believed to be responsible for killing 1 teenage surfer and injuring another of El Salvador's Pacific coast.
Salt Lake Police arrest 2 teens after they allegedly drove around firing at pedestrians and children.
The state medical examiner's office is investigating the death of a 52-year-old man whose body was found along a road between Payson and Spring Lake early Friday morning.
Humans.
Who are you?
Are you from the west? Are you from the east? Are you black? Or are you white? Do you
Citizens, arise! And march!
1, 2, 1, 2, left, right. Left, right. Left, right, stop.
Speed up!
1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Stop. Go round. Up. 1, 2. Slow.
March!
Speed. 1, 2, 1, 2.
The sun is male and the source of life. The moon is female and presides over the night and protects the dead.
The moon is a measure, above all, regulating human action, not motivating. Her light is cold light, intimate. Reflected dead.
It's during the day that life of man advances. During the night, life is in a state of suspended animation, a necessary law during the hours of the dominion of death.
Night is to be feared. This impression of fearful mystery is even felt by those who have no form of religious belief at all.
It is at night that the ghosts of the dead arise and walk abroad. It is then that the spirits, which are from another element, the earth, emerge from their caves and hollows.
Evil comes to be associated with night and death.
Witchcraft is a supernatural evil.
Individual acts of witchcraft are specific evil acts which are performed through supernatural power.
The characteristic ingredient of an act of witchcraft is that the witch must feel malice towards an individual who has offended her. And through cursing, incantation, sorcery, and out of the sheer force of her ill will cause illness or death to come upon the family, livestock, and individuals of the person concerned.
The devil is the same everywhere, and so is the Sabbath.
Sorcerers are guilty of as many as 15 crimes, neither more nor less. Denial of God, cursing God and blaspheming, worshipping the devil by honoring him and making sacrifices, murdering little children, pledging to Satan children yet in the mother's womb, spreading propaganda about the cult, making and honoring oaths in the name of the devil, incest, murdering men and little children to make a broth, disinterring the dead, eating human flesh, drinking the blood, killing by means of poisons and spells, killing cattle, causing famine in the land and infertility in the fields, having sexual intercourse with the devil,
The word gave signifies belief in certain people's ability to attract harm and to cause evil as a result of some evil quality within them.
Gifts abound in all sections of society, particularly when there's a strong feeling of tensions.
By the ability to cause harm to another is a direct result of a certain substance within the body.
This
The
substance
grows.
can be sometimes used deliberately.
A witch can transfer her witchcraft to another by passing on some material object. This object, which generally handed over in articulo mortis, makes the person whom it is giving a witch.
By handing more or less common objects to another individual, witches or sorcerers bent on doing evil are capable of bewitching others or causing them to be possessed by the devil.
This is strange. I cannot find my way home.
It is growing dark. I cannot see.
Why don't we sit down and tell stories till comes the sun?
Who will tell a story?
Beware. Will you be able to pay the price? One day there was a man and his wife, and they lived in a beautiful village. They were very happy. They played and sang. They had 10 boys. The boys grew up and took for them wives, and their parents passed away. The youngest boy, when he turned 18 years old, he approached his older brother, Deba. Deba, my brother, it is time for me too to take a wife, so that I can be happy like you. And so, the older brother consulted with his older brothers and came to the conclusion that it was time for the younger brother, Deba, to take a wife. And so they called him in. My young brother, Deba, when our father was near death, he gave us a stick of medicine. And with this medicine, he gave us an instruction. The instruction was that we as his sons were never to partake of fish. For if we did so, we would die. And with the stick of medicine he gave us, if we had to put that in the food, we would know if it contained fish or not. Now, my young brother, said his older brother Deba, go out into the village and find for yourself a wife, beautiful, who you can marry and live happily with. And so off they went. Off they went to the village to find a wife. On entrance into the village, he laid his eyes on the most beautiful girl. Oh, he looked at her, and she was going to be his wife. And as she stared into his eyes, she knew. The two of them went off to their home. On arrival at home, her mother, who had lost her husband, laid eyes on him. All of a sudden, she fell in love with him. He was so beautiful to her. The boy was very, very distressed. As he was in love with her daughter, he didn't know what to do. And so, in order to have revenge, the mother decided on a plan that would destroy the boy and save her daughter. One night, she started to make a powder, and into the powder went fish. She put the fish in the meal. She began to stir and stir. On the following day, the couple went off to the village. They had a lovely day at the village and they came home for dinner. On arrival home, they sat down to eat. And out came the delicious smelling meal. They sat down. The two women were watching the boy. He took out secretly his stick of medicine. And while the women were not looking, he put the stick of medicine into the food and stirred it around. To his horror, he found it contained fish. When the woman looked back to him, he put the spoon in the meal and began to eat. And he had one mouthful, and then he had another mouthful. All of a sudden, he started to stare and stare. The woman looked on. "What's going on with you?" He turned to them and said, "I have seen my father. He has come to fetch me. You knew that I was not to partake of fish, and yet you have put fish in my meal. And now my father has come, and I must go with him. When my brothers come, please tell them where I have gone."
Some nocturnal birds and animals are very definitely associated with witchcraft and are thought to be the servants of human witches and to be in league with them. Such are bats, which are internationally feared for its evil attribute, and owls, which hoot forebodings of misfortune in the night. These nocturnal creatures are associated with witches because witchcraft is especially active at night, where it may sometimes be seen in motion.
many times in the course of the year. Whenever the fruit and crops are beginning to flourish, they make powders and poisons. And to this end, the devil chooses out those to whom he has given power and the appropriate rank for making poisons. And he tells them the day on which they have to make them. He divides the fields amongst them, and on the next day they go out with spades and sacks to search for the reptiles and other things used for making poisons. And the devil goes before them with his servants and leads them into the fields and the darkest and most cavernous places. They gather out a large number of snakes and toads, slugs and snails and puffballs, and they take them to their house. And there, sometimes in company with the devil, and sometimes at the Sabbath, they devise and make their poisons.
Once their work is done, they leave the Sabbath in the shape of a various animal used by the devil, carrying the cauldron and the magic powder. Then they scattered over the places which they wish to damage, while the devil says, "Powder, powder, ruin everything," while they talk be wind, and the more important sources and wits repeat after him. Let all or half be lost with that everything except belongs to me.
I adjure the blood and all its stains to blacken heaven in witchcraft's name, to raise the wind and bell the day, and bring the rain, and bring the rain.
And
Bring the rain, and bring the rain.
Witches cannot fly.
They will rub themselves with an ointment.
The ointment, which is an opiate made from henbane, given them by the devil, sends them to sleep. And they dream such a dream that they think they are not dreaming at all. And since the devil has great power to deceive, he causes them to dream the same dream. And they think they are flying through the air, when in reality they are fast asleep. And when they wake, they think they have been to see the calf or visited the fields of Baruana, when in reality they are fast asleep, more than two of them with the ointment on them.
A woman usually becomes a witch after the initial failure of her life as a woman.
This in turn drive her to use improper means to achieve her end, although this does not always involve the work of devil.
In old age, perhaps her only satisfaction is to see younger women go the same way as she, living a life of false or inverted value. For them, the evil becomes good, the crooked straight. What is public loses its importance. What is secret and carried out in the strictest secrecy becomes significant.
Witchcraft makes one feel pity, more than anything else. Pity for those persecuted, who wanted to do evil yet could not do it, and their lives became frustrated, tragic. Pity too for those persecuting, who were brutal because they believed that numberless dangers surrounded them.